Good morning. Today is Tessiyar. We're going to learn now the daf for Shabbos for Yudiyar for the 25th day. So we're going to learn now daf Chav Hey. It's worth noting that the space in between daf Chav Dalet and daf Chav Hey, which is where we are right now, is exactly the middle of Masechah Sotah. So because Sotah has 48 dafim, Sphira has 49 days, but we start on the second day of the Yomer because it starts with daf Beis, daf Chav Hey, Chav Hey Amud Aleph.
32.
Chav Hey is 25. So since it has 28 days, so you split that into two. That's 24 and 24. So for the first 24 daf is part one, and the second 24 daf are part two. Okay. So we started yesterday Perek Arusa. Now we're going to ask some questions about different topics, which we're going to try to use our Gemara, our Mishnah, as sources for the answer. So we're going to have a series of bunch of questions. We are 3 lines from the top of the Yamud. Let's go. The students ask the question, the following question. Iveres aldas, a woman that is transgressing the religion, which means Rashi lets us in that it's talking about a Jewish woman who doesn't act modestly. She walks around with her head uncovered. She spins strings in the marketplace in an inappropriate fashion, and she flirts with all the men she sees. So she's a woman who's acting inappropriately. So the rule is that, like we spoke out yesterday, that if a woman gets divorced and it's her fault, if it's her fault that she got divorced, so she doesn't get the ksuba. Why? Because the whole reason why the Chacham instituted ksuba is in order that it's not easy for a man to divorce his wife. In case where the Torah wants you to divorce your wife, so the woman loses her ksuba. So a woman who's a veres aldas, the Torah wants the man to divorce her because the Torah doesn't want a person to be married with an immodest woman. So the question is, so if the guy divorces her, does she need to have been warned already before in order to make her lose her ksuba or not? Meaning to say that the husband, let's say, sees that his wife is acting inappropriately. Does he first need to warn her not to act inappropriately? And if you do, I'll divorce you and you're going to lose your ksuba, or not? And if he didn't warn her, will she actually lose the ksuba? So that's the question. So do we say that that since she's going against the Jewish religion, so she doesn't need to be warned? Dilma, guys, quiet please. Dilma tibai hasra, that she does need warning. Because we need to give her the chance, we need to give her the opportunity to do tshuva. So what do we do? Does she need to be warned or not to lose her ksuba? So Tashma, we're going to bring a proof from our Mishnah. What did our Mishnah say? That in Arusa Vishemeres Yavam, and Arusa is a woman who's betrothed, a woman between Kiddushin and Nisuin, between the two stages of marriage. And a Shemeres Yavam is a woman whose husband died without any children. And now the Torah says that her brother-in-law should marry her, but the time in between the death of her husband and the marriage to her brother-in-law, she's called a Shemeres Yavam. She's called waiting for the Yavam, waiting for Yibum. So because she's not allowed to marry anyone else until the Yavam does either Yibum or Chalitza. So said the Mishnah, they don't drink the Sotah waters, but they know this ksuba, and they also don't get their ksuba money. So what did we say? That Mishnah who delay shasya, they don't drink the Sotah waters. That's what the Mishnah said. The Mishnah said that they don't drink it. However, the husband is able to warn them not to seclude themselves with so and so. So 1 second, the Gemara asks, Lamai, what's the point of the husband warning these women, the Arusa or the Shemeres Yavam, if anyways it's not possible for them to drink the Sotah waters because they're not really fully married to him, they're only partially married. And if they're partially married, the husband can never give her this Sotah waters, as we explained yesterday from the Pesukim about Tachas Ishech and Tachas Isha, that she had to have strayed from under the jurisdiction of her husband. It has to be her full-fledged husband. And if he's only partially her husband, he's never able to give her the Sotah waters. So therefore, what's the point of him warning her? What's the point? Is it lav sida ksubasa? Is it not to make her lose her ksuba? Of course, it's to make her lose her ksuba. That if she secludes herself with this guy, he'll say, "You're now asarami, and you were getting divorced, and you lose your ksuba." So we use this as a proof that what? We use this as a proof that by a veres aldas, a woman that's going against the Jewish religion, a woman that's acting immodestly, also she needs to be warned before she gets divorced in order to lose her ksuba. So Amar Abaye says, not so fast. Loi. No, you don't have to say that he's warning her in order to make her lose her ksuba, but maybe the warning's for something else. The point of him warning her is in order. The point of the arus or the yavam warning his arusa or his shemeres yavam is not in order to make her lose her ksuba. It's because if she goes against his warning, she'll become usher to him. So there's a different function of this warning that doesn't have anything to do with the ksua, right? And Rav Papa says a different thing. I'll give you a better answer why the chassan is divorcing is warning his wife. Could he put on a yarmulke? Rav Papa Amar lashkoisa k'shein nesua. The point of him warning her when they're just engaged or betrothed is in order that he could make her drink Sotah waters once they're nesua, once they're fully married. Kidetanya, like we have a brisa in that we quoted in the Sotah Yivamis. It says like this: Emekanan la'arusa la'ashkoisa k'shei arusa. You can't warn an arusa, a betrothed woman, only engaged woman, in order to make her drink the Sotah waters when she's still engaged. Why? Because it has to be tachas isha, like we explained yesterday. But you could warn this arusa, this betrothed woman, in order to make her drink when she's in a suah. So beautiful. Rav Papa says that there's a clear point of why you would warn why the chassid would warn his betrothed wife to be not to seclude herself with this guy, because if she secludes herself with this guy after she gets married, after the nisuin, so he will be able to give her the Sotah waters. Could you not do that, Yisrael? Thank you. Amar Rava. Yeah, so what did we do? We just disproved our proof from our Mishnah. We tried to bring a proof from our Mishnah that an Iveris, a woman that's acting immodestly, needs to be warned in order to lose her ksuba. And how do we know that? Because our Mishnah says you need to warn them, and obviously it's because in order to make her lose her ksuba. And we just brought two alternative reasons why the husband would warn his arusa or his shemeres yavav. So we knocked out the proof, and we don't know the answer as to if an Iveris aldas needs warning or not. Amar Rava. Rava said, I'll bring you a different proof. Tashma, come in here. Almana l'kohen gadol. Our Mishnah also said like this: if an almana marries a kohen gadol, a widow marries a kohen gadol, which is a marriage usher from the Torah in this week's parsha. A divorced woman, which is also usher to kohen in this week's parsha, or a chalutza is a woman that got chalitza, meaning that her husband had died without any children, and the brother of her deceased husband did chalitza with her because she didn't want to. They didn't want to get married. And midrabanan, a chalutza is not allowed to marry a kohen. So the kohen had it if they marry a regular kohen. Mamzeres unesina Yisrael. Mamzeres was the woman born from a illegitimate marriage, a marriage that carries an iser kares, or an nesina is a woman born from the nation of the Nesinim, which were the nation that double-crossed Yeshua, and they made a swear to him, and they had lied to him that they were from outside of Eretz Yisrael, and when they weren't keeping the Torah, the Chachamim ruled that we have to treat them like Goyim. Unesina li Yisrael, if they marry a regular Jew, which is Aser, so Mamzeres is Midayres, and Nesina is Midrabanan. Bas Yisrael Mamzer Ulunasin, or if a Jewish girl, a regular Jewish girl, marries a Mamzer, a bastard, a Jewish man from a illegitimate marriage, or a Nesina, or a Nasin, or this guy from the nation of the Nesinim. So also all these cases, they don't drink the Sotah waters, but they drink this ksuba, and they don't get their ksuba money. And why? Because we said that tachas isha, it has to be from under the jurisdiction of her husband, and it has to be a husband that's recognized al pi Torah, that the Torah recognizes that they're allowed to be husband and wife. So any of these asura marriages, they don't have the Sotah water. The Sotah water doesn't apply. So if the husband warns his wife and she secludes herself, she doesn't drink the Sotah waters, and she also loses her ksuba. So she doesn't drink. But the husband does warn her. So ulamai, why is he warning her? You can't give me the answer that you gave before to what's it called, to Arusa and Shemeres Yavam. So we said for sure the answer that we gave before for Arusa and Shemeres Yavam is that the reason why he's warning her is in order to make her usher on him. You can't tell me that over here, because in all these cases she's already usher to him. The husband and the wife are not allowed to be together. So the point of him warning his wife, the reason why the Torah would allow him to warn his wife, B'chlal, is definitely not to make her usher on him, because she's already usher on him. Is it not in order to make them lose the ksuba money when they get divorced? So Rav Yehuda from Diskarta said, Diskarta is either the name of a place, or the word Diskarta itself means like town or city. So Rav Yehuda from Diskarta said like this: Loi, no, what's the point of the husband in these usher marriages warning the wife? In order to make her usher on the adulterer, just like the husband. Like we said before, that we know already, we were speaking about this, that when the wife secludes herself with this guy after she was warned, she gets divorced, and she's usher to be with her husband. Also, not only that, the Torah says that she's usher to be with the boil, with the adulterer, with the man that she secluded herself with, always, she's always usher to be with the man that she cheated on her husband with, even after her husband divorced her. She's never able to marry her. So the point of him warning her is in order to make her usher on that loss. Okay. Now, Amar Chanina Misura, Chanina from Surah said, I'll give you. So now, what are we left with? We're left with still no proof as to whether an Averis Aldas, a woman who's acting immodestly, needs a warning to lose her ksuba or not. Next proof. Amar Chanina Misura, Chanina from Surah said, Tashma, I'll bring you a different proof from our Mishnah. The next case of our Mishnah, we keep on bringing a proof, getting disproved, then moving down the chain in the Mishnah. We had a very long Mishnah. Next. These, the following women, the Bezdin warns them if he sees them, if the Bezdin suspects that they're having an inappropriate relation with a person, warns them not to seclude herself with this guy. Misha is charged by law, a woman whose husband became deaf, or he became crazy, or if he was in jail. Now, then said the Mishnah, that when we say that the Bezdin warns the wife, it's not in order to make her drink, because the Bezdin is not able to make her drink, it has to be dafke the husband. The husband has to bring his wife to the kohen, like it says in the Torah. So the whole point of why the Bezdin could warn them is in order to make her usher, is in order to disqualify her from her ksuba, in order to take away her ksuba from her, that when she gets divorced because of her this inappropriate behavior, and when she secludes herself with that guy, minat Torah, she has to get divorced. She's not allowed to be with her husband anymore. And then the place of Miksubasa, so the whole reason why the Bezdin would make her into a Sotah, since she can't drink the waters, the whole point is, in order to make her lose Miksuba, Shmamina, we have a proof. From there, that was a good proof. And what did we prove just now? That a Veras Aldas, a woman that is acting inappropriately, does need to be warned before she gets divorced in order to lose her Ksuba, so that she could have a chance to do Tshuva. And if she does Tshuva, she will be able to keep her Ksuba. Beautiful. Shmamina Yasra Shmamina. We learn from here that she does need to be warned. Beautiful. Next, the Kulu. Now the Gemara asks all these other answers. We gave three answers. The first, we gave three attempted proofs from our Mishnah to answer the Averis Aldas. The first proof was Arisa B'Shemeres Yavam. Then we knocked out that. So then we brought the women that are usher to their husbands anyway, the Mamzer, the Nesina. And then the third proof was the one that stood, which is the one about the woman whose husband is in jail or he's deaf. So Bekulu, my time Amri Meha. Why did the first two guys, the first two chevra, which were why didn't the first one doesn't have a name, the second one was Rav Yehuda Midiskarta? No, I take that back. Rava was the second one. The first one doesn't have a name. So why didn't the first two guys say like the third one, who brought the good proof? That one was much clearer in the Mishnah that the woman, in order to lose her ksuba, the Mishnah basically spelled out in clear words that in order to lose her ksuba, she needs to be warned. Why didn't they bring that part of the Mishnah? My time meha. So the reason is because our last proof, is not really foolproof. It's not really it's not without its holes. Why? Because they thought, my time of the Amri why didn't they say like the third proof? Because Dilma Shani Hasa, maybe in the third proof it's different. Why? The Leisla Aimsa de Balklal. Oh, when it comes to the last case, which is if a woman's husband went crazy or if he's in jail, so the woman feels absolutely no fear, or she doesn't feel intimidated at all by her husband, which means that a woman whose husband is more or less out of the picture, who's more or less dysfunctional at the moment, is much more likely to be flirting with other people and be acting inappropriately than a regular woman. And therefore, in that case, the Bezdin can sort of say that it's expected that she's going to act like that because her husband is basically not with it. So therefore, the Chachamim say that since we can expect it of this woman, so we have to warn her. We can't just get her divorced without any warning because what's she supposed to do? She basically doesn't really have a husband who's a functioning guy. So over there, maybe the Bezdin has to warn her. But in a regular case of a regular woman who's a Veras Aldas, her husband is in the picture. So how do we know? We don't know for sure. We don't really have a clear proof, because this basically the third answer that we brought, which is the case of the husband who's in jail or who's a thing, is much more likely for the woman to be acting like that, and therefore we have much more grounds to say that we should warn her before we divorce her. Okay, so therefore the first two answers didn't bring that, because it's not really a foolproof answer. It's not really a foolproof proof. But what we're left with now basically is that, bottom line, the Averis Aldas does need to be warned from the third answer that we brought, which was the last clause of the Mishnah that we brought as a proof. Beautiful. Now we have another question. Towards the middle of the Amud, Another shaila. Iberes al das. What happens if you have a woman who's going against the religion? She's acting inappropriately. Like Rashi said before, she's walking around without her hair covered. She's walking around flirting with people. She's in the street. She's spinning threads in an inappropriate fashion. So Iberes al das. She's one of these women. And Viratza balakaima, but the husband doesn't want to divorce her. So is it Mekaima? Is he allowed to keep her? Is he allowed to keep her as his wife? Ain't Mekaima, or is he not allowed to? Is he forced to divorce her? So the shaila is me, Amrina, do we say that the Baal Tala Rahmana that when the Torah says that the Iveris Haldash should get divorced, is it shot that the Torah is saying because the husband cares? Is the Torah sensitive to the husband's cares that the husband wants to divorce her? And then and then in this case, the husband doesn't want to divorce her, so he should be able to keep her. By Dilma, or is it that came on the Kapid once we know that most people would be worried about that most people would not like it when their wife is acting in this inappropriate fashion. So Kapid. So in our case, we should say that even this husband should take a divorce his wife. So Tashma, let's bring a proof. Mendel and Yossi. I want you guys to open Gemara's. Mendel, open your Gemara to Daf Chafei Aleph. Tashma, let's bring a proof from our Mishnah. The following women, Bezdin warns them if they're acting inappropriately. Who is it? Mishan is Charish by a woman whose husband became deaf, or he became crazy, or if he was incarcerated in prison. So now, if you want to tell me that in the case of Iveris Aldas, a woman who's acting inappropriately, if the husband wants to keep her, he's allowed to keep her. So then the shaila is, how is Bezdin able to now warn his wife? Why? Because how can Bezdin do something on behalf of Yossi Mendel? How is Bezdin able to do something on behalf of the husband that the husband Lav Dafka agrees with? We don't know. Does the husband really want to divorce his wife or not? We don't know for sure, right? But our Mishnah said that the Bezdin should warn the wife. And the problem is that if the husband would not want for the wife to be divorced, if the husband would not want his wife to become usher on him, so that's a problem. And the problem is that we have ein chavin la'adam shlei b'fanav. You're not able to make a liability for someone in front of them, right? The rule is zachan la'adam shlei b'fanav. You're able to make someone gain. You're able to make a merit for someone not in their presence, which means you're able to gift someone $1,000 not in their presence. You're able to say these $100 go to kach v'kach, and it taka belongs to him, and it fully belongs to him. If you make kinyan or whatever, there's different ways, mechanisms to do it. But for a choiv, for the opposite, for a liability for someone, you can't do that if you're not in front of it. So how is the Bezdin able to warn this guy's wife? Possibly for this husband, it's a liability because this husband would never want his wife to have been warned because if she secludes herself, she's gonna be usher on him, and the guy never wanted his wife to be usher on him. So how is the Bezdin able to do that? But our Mishnah said that the Bezdin does do that. So obviously, it doesn't really matter what the husband thinks, that since most husbands care about that, so we assume that the husband also cares about that, and the Bezdin is able to warn her, and that would bring proof to our case that the husband is not allowed to keep her if he wants to. So says the Gemara, not necessarily. Maybe you can bring a proof from our Mishnah, because our Mishnah is Stama de Milsa, Keva de Veres Aldasi, Meinach Nechale. The Bezdin is not, the Bezdin, it could be taka that the husband still won't want it. However, since in general, in most cases, a husband would want his wife to be warned if she was acting inappropriately, so the Bezdin does the same thing, and you can't really bring that as a clear proof to our case, because they're not really comparable, and therefore we're left with a question. I'm pretty sure the halacha is that if the husband does want to keep her, he is allowed to keep her. He shouldn't, but he's allowed to. Okay, next. Ibailu, a new question. Now we're talking about a regular case of a Sotah. You have a man warns his wife, don't seclude yourself with Ruvain. Then she goes and secludes herself with Ruvain. So she becomes a Sotah in that case. Now, what happens if the husband takes back his warning, his original warning? If the husband would have never warned her, nothing would have happened. She would have secluded herself with the guy for however long she wants, and she's never ushered to her husband, unless we have clear proof that she cheated on him. Once she warns him, once the guy warns her, the whole Sotah process goes into effect only if the husband had warned her. What happens if the husband retracts his warning? And the Gemara is not going to be clear yet as to how far into the process he's retracting his warning.
Actually, I want you guys to go.
Well, no, he says no, because we don't know anything for sure. We don't know anything that happened for sure. No one saw the act of intimacy. If someone did, then she's for sure ushered. We just know that they went into a room together.
He gave her warning and then took it off.
Yeah, and then he says, I take that back. Whatever, he decided that he wants to make up with his wife and he wants his wife to trust him. Or let's say it's a guy that she works with or whatever. and it's not really practical for her to not ever seclude to say that every time she secludes herself with him, she's going to be usher to him and go to the Beis Hamikdash and drink. Maybe it's not that practical.
Right.
So the husband retracts his warning. So the shaila is he able to retract it or not? And if he does retract it, is that effective? That if she taka secludes herself with that guy, she's not going to become a Sotah. So that's the question. So Baal Shemachal Kinuya, a husband that retracts his warning. Is Kinuya Machal, is his warning taka forgiven? Is his warning absolved? Oh, or is it not absolved? Then the warning still stays in effect. So what's the question? Do we say that that the whole reason why the warning is a problem is because the husband is warning her? It has to do with the husband warning her. And now, since it has to do with what the husband thinks, the husband now retracted his warning, so it should be retracted. Oh, Dilma, or maybe once he warns her, he's not able to take it back. So that's the shaila. So Tashmal, we're going to bring a proof again from our Mishnah from the same case. The following women, the Bezdin warns them not to seclude themselves with a certain guy. A woman whose husband became deaf or became crazy and was incarcerated in prison. Now, if you're going to tell me that a husband that retracts his warning is taka absolved. So Avdinon Midi the Asi Baal Machile. Why would Bezdin do something that possibly the husband's going to get out of prison, or he's going to, I guess in the other cases, it's a little bit harder to imagine. If the husband becomes undeaf, maybe he gets hearing aids, and he becomes a little bit more sane, and he's going to retract it. If the husband's able to retract it, it's going to end up that it could be embarrassing for Bezdin. And the Torah doesn't want it to be embarrassing for Bezdin. Why? Because it's a big problem. If Bezdin is getting embarrassed, a public shame that we were warned this woman, and then the husband came and retracted the warning, retracted the Bezdin, which Al Pi Torah he's allowed to. Yeah. So if there's something embarrassing for Bezdin, so then people are going to respect the Bezdin less, they respect the authority less, and it's basically something embarrassing for the government of the Jewish nation is not good. So why would the Bezdin put themselves in a situation where it could be embarrassing for them? The fact that the Mishnah gives it as an option for the Bezdin to warn this woman obviously means that it's not possible for the husband to retract the warning. And once the Bezdin made a warning, the husband can't go back on it. So says the Gemara, no, not necessarily. Why are you saying that? Maybe the husband still could retract it, but some of them also adam askemal das Bezdin. The general rule is we have a general rule that b'chlal in Judaism people agree with what the Bezdin does, and if the Bezdin decided to warn his wife, we're going to assume that the guy's going to go along with it because that's the Bezdin, they're the authority, they're the government. And we have a big reason to assume that he's not going to go back. So meaning it's a very small chance that he is going to retract it because this is what the Bezdin did, this is what the rabbis did. So it's not really a good proof. Okay, so now Tashma will bring a different proof. I'll bring you a different proof about whether a Baal Shemachal al Kinuya is Kinuya Machal or not. Tashma, proof that we already spoke about in the Mishnah, Daf Zayin Azoy, that when the husband brings his wife to the Beis Hamikdash after she becomes a Sotah, so we said that they're not allowed to be intimate with each other. That's an Isser from the Torah. So now, we give the husband and wife two Talmidei Chachamim to go together with them to the Beis Hamikdash. They don't just go alone in order to make sure that they don't have a relation on the way. And then just to remind you in the Mishnah over there, Rabbi Yossi argued, and Rabbi Yossi said that no, the husband and wife could go alone. They don't need to have anyone go with them. But the Tanna Kama said you need two Talmidei Chachamim. So now the question is like this. If you're going to tell me that a husband who goes back or retracts his warning is forgiven. So very simple. The guy should retract his warning. Meaning, what's the big problem if he has a relation with his wife on the way? There's a very easy halachic method for him to have a relation with her. He retracts his warning, and then the whole thing retroactively goes out. She retroactively becomes not a Sotah anymore, and then they can have a relation all they want, right? So why are we making this whole big deal? You need to send two Talmidei Chachamim, and then my Shna Talmidei Chachamim. Oh, so the Chala, the Kinuy V'Livel. So what do we see from here? We see from here that a man cannot retract his warning. You have to send people with them and to make sure that they don't have a relation on the way. He should be allowed to have a relation with her on the way. If he really wants to be with her, he can retract his warning. So the Gemara says, no, you look at the Mishnah a little bit closer. The Mishnah says that you need to send Talmidei Chachamim. They have to be Torah scholars. Why dafka Torah scholars? Because the Gemiri, they have to be people that learn. That they learn that the iboy lemival amri they achle lekinoyech ubaala. The reason why you need two Talmidei Chachamim dafka is so that if they see that if the husband wants to be with his wife, they'll tell him, "No, just retract your warning and you'll be able to be with her." Meaning, if the whole point was just to make sure that they're not together, that they don't have a relation together, it doesn't have to be Talmidei Chachamim. It could just be two regular guys. It doesn't have to be people that know halacha. It could just be people that know that a Sotah is not allowed to be with her husband. It doesn't have to be smart people. If it's Talmidei Chachamim, the reason why you need Talmidei Chachamim is to be able to give them this loophole that if they want to be together, he could say, retract your thing and then be with her. So there's no proof either way. So now Tashma, so I'll bring you a different proof about whether a man is able to retract his warning or not. Rabbi Yoshia said that Zeira was one of the men from Yerushalayim, told me three things, told me as number one, a husband that retracts his warning is retracted. The next case is Zaken Mamre. These are what the Psukim talking about in Parsha Shoftim. The Isha Asher Yasa Bezodain, about when the Bezdin Agadol, the central Jewish court, the Sanhedrin rules a ruling, and then there's one guy who goes out and makes a whole rebellion against it and says, Farkaret, no, he paskins basically against the Bezdin Agadol of Shimon Ve'echad, which is a big problem because it takes the whole Judaism into question. The Judaism, Teresh Balpeh, was given into the authority of the Chachamim. And if there's people that are going against the Chachamim, we have to put an end to it. So the Torah says that a Zaken Mamre gets chenek. A Zaken Mamre means a rebellious elder. So, however, said Zeira that Bezdin if the Bezdin forgives him, if the Bezdin says we don't want to kill the Zaken Mamre, so they don't have to, they could forgive him. And Ben Seir Romeira, finally, a Ben Seir Romeira is a pasuk in Parshas Kiseitze, beginning of Parshas Kiseitze, where it talks about a child who's between 13 and 13 and a half, and there's a bunch of details in the Gemara and Sanhedrin that goes through how every single detail needs to be met. So it was so specific. It's such a specific case that the Ben Seir Romeira case never happened in history. But he has to steal a specific amount of money from his father. He has to buy with that a specific amount of meat and a specific amount of wine that's what's it called? That's yain megita. That's like a wine that's unfermented. And he has to bring his friends together, and they have to all eat together, and they have to eat it quickly. Kitzer, there's a lot of details that have to go on, and his parents have to have the same voice, and his parents have to look the same, they have to be the same height. Kitzer, there's a lot of details that have to go into. But point is, the Zeira said that a Ben Seir Romeira, and the punishment for a Ben Seir Romeira, if the parents want to kill him, is that they bring him to Bezdin, and they stone the Ben Seir Romeira. So said Zeira that if a Ben Seir Romeira, that his parents want to forgive him, his parents don't want to kill him, so they can forgive him. Right? So you can see already how this case never happened. Yeah? So if the parents want to forgive him, he's able to be forgiven. When I came to my friends in the south, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines from the bottom of the Amud. When I came to my friends that were in the south, who are my friends in the south? So we're going to see in a second. They agreed with me on 2 of those cases. However, they did not agree to me with Zaken Mamre. They said that a Zaken Mamre, that the Bezdin forgives him, is not able to be forgiven. They do have to kill the Zaken Mamre. Why? In order that there shouldn't be machlekes, that there shouldn't be arguments in the Jewish nation, that the Sanhedrin says one thing and the Zaken Mamre says the other thing, and the whole Judaism is going to split if you have a Zaken Mamre. Basically, it affects the entire Jewish nation. So Shema Mina. So what do we learn from this? We learn from here that all the Tanoim basically agreed that a Baal Shemachal al Kinuyai, that a husband who retracts his kinoi is taka retractable, and we're going to find out in a second when exactly that is. So I just want to point out that Eitzel Chaver Shebedar, my friends in the south, who's it talking about? It's talking about the students of Rabbi Akiva, because the story in Yevamis goes that during the time between Pesach and Shavuos, the Rabbi Akiva students all died out, 24,000 students, and then the whole world was desolate. The whole world was desolate because there was no one who was learning Torah until Rabbi Akiva came to the south of Eretz Yisrael, and he found over there 5 Talmidim, or Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, Reb Meir, Reb Yehuda, Reb Yosi, and Reb Elazar ben Shamua. These 5 guys, and he taught them Torah, and the Torah all bottlenecked at that time, and it all restarted from those 5 people. So the Chaverei Shebedarim were the students of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, the second wave of students of Rabbi Akiva, that they came down, that Rabbi Akiva came down to the south and started Torah again from there. And I'll point out that what did they say? They said that they agreed with Zeira for the guy from Yerushalayim on the 2 cases of Ben Seir Umeira and Sotah. It makes sense what he said. However, what they couldn't handle, what they couldn't agree with, was that a Zaken Mamre could be forgiven. Why? Because if a Zaken Mamre is forgiven, it's just going to make more fights. What was the problem with the students of Rabbi Akiva, the original students of Rabbi Akiva? That they weren't getting along with each other. They couldn't treat each other with respect. So we see over here the rectification for that the Chaveresh Bedarim, the second wave of students of Rabbi Akiva, they didn't want to handle that the halacha should be in a way that there could be more fights in the Jewish nation. They said that the halacha has to be in a way that we reduce fights from the Jewish people. Interesting to point out. Okay, now we're going to ask the shaila like this, based on what we just said earlier, that a baal shemachal kinuye machal. So we say like this: baal shemachal kinuye machal shmamina. Good, beautiful. So now, pligi bar Ravacha Ravina, Ravacha and Ravina had an argument about this. Hadamar, one of them says, "Kedem stira machul, achar stira ene machul." When do we say that the husband's that the husband's warning is able to be retracted? That's only before stira. That's only between the kinoy and the stira. He warns her and he says, "Actually, I take that back." However, once he warned her and she secluded herself with that guy, minat Torah, she becomes a Sotah. You can't take it back after that; it's too late. The other one says no. Even after she secluded herself, after midday she's a Sotah, you can still take it back and retract the whole Sotah business. But it makes more sense to say like the first opinion that says that it's only machul between kina and stira, that after stira you can't retract. Why? From what the Chachamim answered to Rabbi Yossi in the case that we already, in the machlekes that we already referenced previously. What did we reference? The Tanya, we have a brayso that we brought on Daf Zayin. Rabbi Yossi says that Bailo Neman Aleah. We said in the Mishnah before that the husband and wife who go to the Beis Hamikdash, they need to have two Talmidei Chachamim going with them to make sure they didn't have a relation. Rabbi Yossi said, no, the husband is believed, that the husband could go by himself. Why? He brought Mikal V'Chomer, he brought Mikal V'Chomer. Uman Nida, She B'Koreis, B'Elo Neman Aleha. When it comes to the Isser of Nida, which happens every month when a man's wife is menstruating, they're not allowed to be together. And what? That's Isser Koreis. It's a death penalty. It's a death min hashamayim, but it's a death penalty if they're together, and it's such a severe sin. But the husband is believed not to be with his wife. We don't say that Talmidei Chachamim have to move into the guy's house every time his wife's in nida. So we believe the husband not to be with his wife when she's in Isser Kares. So Sotah Shiva Lav like Kol Shekain, for sure a Sotah, which is not in Isser Kares, it's just Isser Lav. It's just Malchus if the guy has a relation with a Sotah. So like Kol Shekain, for sure we should believe the husband. If by a much more Chomer Aver we believe him, we should believe him by Sotah. That's Rabbi Yossi's opinion. And therefore he says that they go together to the Beis Hamikdash by themselves. Amru loy, the Chacham said back to him, no, loy. Farkeret, imamrat benida. You want to say that Nida, you can't say that Nida is more stringent than Sotah over here. Why? Because Nida, sheken yesh la heter. She has a clear way that she's permissible. Right after she goes to the mikvah, after she stops bleeding, she goes to the mikvah and she's pure. The husband knows that in a week's time, I'll be able to be together with my wife. So it's less of a chance that he's going to want to be together, that he's going to want to go against the mitzvah. However, Tamar b'Sotah she'en la heter. How could you say that? By a Sotah, if the Sotah is guilty, she's going to die. So the husband knows that this is possibly the last chance that I have to be with this woman, that I have to be with my wife. So now, if you're going to tell me that your husband is able to retract this kinoi after she was already secluded, after she's already a bona fide Sotah, so mashkachasa, the yesh laheter, it's possible that you can't say that the Chachamim's whole proof doesn't make sense, because you're saying that this husband might never be able to be with his wife. That's not true. If the guy would just retract his kinoi, he is going to be able together with his wife. So it's not like a thing that he'll never be able to be together with her. If he wants to really be with her that badly, he could retract his kinoi. He retracts his kinoi, and then he can have a relation with her because retroactively she's not a Sotah anymore. So so we learn from here that we proved that when we say that a husband can retract his kinoi, which he could, that's only after the kinoi, after he warned her, but before she secluded herself. If she already secluded herself with that guy in front of Adam, it's already too late. She becomes a Sotah, and they have to go through with the process. Shema Mina, beautiful. We're now at the two dots, all the way on the bottom of the Yom, the second to last line. We're quoting from the Mishnah. We had a machlekes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel that what happens if a man warns his wife, she secludes herself, she's a Sotah now. So the way it works is that either she drinks the Sotah waters, and if she doesn't drink the Sotah waters, she gets divorced and she loses her ksuba money. What happens if the husband died before she was able to drink the Sotah waters? So machlekes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai held that she does not drink the Sotah waters, and she also does not lose her ksuba. She gets her ksuba money and she goes free. Her husband died, so she can't drink the waters now, because according to Beis Shammai, she can only drink the waters if her husband is there. However, she still will, what's it called? She still does get her ksuba money, as we'll explain in a second. Beis Hillel says differently. Beis Hillel says that either they drink the Sotah waters, and prove their innocence, and then since her husband's dead, she'll collect her ksuba, or if not, they go out free because the husband's dead, but she doesn't get the ksuba money. So how come? So Miflagi asks the Gemara, what are they really arguing about? Beis Shammai Sabri, Beis Shammai say that shtar ha'omed ligbois ki gavli dami. that when it comes to a document that has a lien, a ksuba document is one of those documents that the wife has a lien on all the husband's properties, or in any document where a guy says, I owe you $100 and all my properties are liened to this slave. So according to Beis Shammai, it's kigavoi dami. According to Beis Shammai, the man who has the lien now, the lender, or in our case, the wife, it's already counted as if she owns the properties more than the owner himself. Why? Because it's very easy for her. If the guy doesn't pay back his loan, he's going to get those properties. So according to Beis Shammai, shtar, which has yet to be repaid back, it's as if it was already repaid with those properties that were liened to. So the woman who now bringing it back, Yoda, don't talk. We're almost finished. Bringing it back to the woman who became a Sotah. So she has a ksuba, and while she has her ksuba, the ksuba has a lien on all of the husband's properties. So while she was married, it's already as if she owns those properties, and therefore she has a bigger advantage on these properties than the husband himself. So now when the husband dies, we don't know if she was a Sotah or not. We don't know if she was guilty or not. A Sotah by definition is a suffix, and the halacha is that whoever wants to get money from his friend, meaning whoever has the money right now, he has a chazak on the money. He is the one who has the precedence with this money or property or whatever, and whoever wants to now come take it away from him, he needs to bring a proof that it really belongs to him. So since, according to Beis Shammai, since the property was all liened to the woman during her marriage via her ksuba, it's already as if it's really hers. So now the husband's family has to bring a proof that really you were a Sotah, that you did cheat on your husband, and if so, then they could get the property back. But the wife says, buddy, it's all mine. The properties already belong to me, so you can't take it away from me because it's just a suffix. That's Beis Shammai's opinion. Turning to Talmud Beis. Beis Hillel Savri, Beis Hillel holds farker. It's shtar ha'imed ligbais, a shtar that was not yet repaid. Lav kegavei dami. It's not as if the guy who has the lien on it owns it already. The original owner has full ownership on it. So now bringing it back to the case of a Sotah, the woman's husband died. Since we have a suffix, all the properties are still muchzak, they still have a chazaka that they belong to the husband. So now, if the wife wants to get her ksuba money, she needs to bring a raya that she is innocent. She needs to bring a raya that should really go to her, that she gets her ksuba, because we flip the tables on her. And therefore, if she wants to prove it, very simple, drink the Sotah waters, you'll be able to prove your innocence, and you can get your ksuba money, and if not, you're not going to get it because moving on. The Mishnah said that we said that a man who marries a woman who's pregnant or who marries a woman who's still nursing for the first 24 months after the baby's born, they don't drink the Sotah waters according to the mayor because it's an usher marriage. Then we also spoke about other women that are not allowed to get married to a person because a person is obligated to have kids, and if he doesn't have kids yet, he can't marry an islandess, a woman who has male characteristics, a woman who is too old to have children, or a woman who's not able to have children for other reasons. So Amar Rav Nachman says, Amar Rabba Baravu, and over there we had a machlekes. The Tanakama said that all these women that can't have a child, the man is not able to give her the Sotah waters because halachically he's not allowed to marry her because a man has to have children. Rabbi Lezer said very simple, it's not true. They could drink the Sotah waters because the husband is allowed to marry her. Why? Because he could just marry another woman and have children from her. You can't, the halacha is that you need to have children. It doesn't have to be dafka from this woman. You can marry a different woman. So Amar Rabba Baravu said that Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravu, this machlekes between Rabbi Lezer and the Tanakama about whether these women that can't have a baby are drink the Sotah waters is only by akaros kena. If it's a woman who is an akara who physically is not able to have children, but she is able to conceive, she just has never had children for a long time, or is kena a woman who is too old to have children. Aval islandess, but when it comes to an islandess is someone we explained before. Islandess means a female ram, which doesn't make any sense because a ram is a male. So it's a woman who developed male characteristics and is lacking some female characteristics. So everyone agrees, both quiet Elio, even Rabbi Lezer would agree that she does not get the ksuba and she doesn't drink the Sotah waters. How come? Because we have a different pasuk in Parsha Sotah that excludes islandess from this story. Shenemar says in the pasuk that if she was innocent, v'niksa, she will be exonerated, v'nizra azara, and she will conceive and she'll be blessed. So it's only Misha Darka Lazria, only a woman who it's possible for her to conceive. Yatsazu, we exclude this case of an islandess in Darka Lazria, that it's not her way to conceive a baby because she has these male characteristics, which we maybe will explain later in the Gemara. And Shevra, we're going to continue later in that first.